Grab your favorite caffeinated beverage and get cozy because you are listening to Mindful as a Mother with Paige Bruce and Lindsay Adams.
Do you want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily. Then you can distribute it everywhere and even earn money, all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. This is what Paige and I use for this podcast, and it seriously makes it so easy. It's easy to record, edit, upload, put the show notes in, and it's free. So if you want to start a podcast, use Spotify for Podcasters. This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for therapy or the therapeutic relationship. And the information given in this podcast is purely for educational purposes and is not intended to replace the advice of a professional. Hello and welcome back to Mindful as a Mother podcast sprint. And we are on day 3. My name's Lindsay and I'm here with Paige.
Hey.
What is day 3 about, Paige?
Attempting new skills.
This is one of my favorite ones because I think it's one of the more complicated pieces of this. Mm-hmm. And this is where most parents or people in general tend to struggle or get off track.
Yeah, I was going to say we get stuck at step 3.
And most people want to start here.
Yeah. And this is not it.
This is not where we start. We start at day 1. Yeah. But most people want, when they're looking to regulate their nervous system or they're helping their kids stay regulated, or so I like the word support their nervous system better. Support their nervous system, stay in a state of regulation. They want to start with like, well, what do I do in the moment? Yeah. What are the skills? It's all about the foundation, baby. Like you got to do day 1 and day 2. Yeah. And you have to like get the foundation. The skills are important, but they're not as important as the foundation. Yes. Because if you don't have that, you're just like constantly
shooting in the dark
and playing catch up, right? Like you're playing catch up on these dysregulated moments when you could actually maybe be preventing dysregulation.
And this is when our kids are acting up. We're like, what the fuck's going on? What's happening? Things are wild. Or you're wild. You're feeling really off. Like, why am I so emotional? And you're like, oh, I need to meditate and I need to collect these rocks and I need to do this and I need to start deep breathing and now I got to run every day. Like, okay, you're in stage 3, take it back to stage 1.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, this is the part where people usually reach out for help.
Yeah. And so when you're looking at implementing new skills or supportive routines, you want to find something that you are already naturally interested in and pick 1 or 2 things at a time. I think the other thing is we want the cure-all. We want to like suddenly be this regulated person. And so we feel like we need to add all the new skills. Like I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do breath work. I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to get like this much sunlight every day. And then we try and do it all at once. And what happens is that our nervous systems are based on predictability and safety. And so if that's not what your nervous system is used to, you're undoing or you're like actually making it harder on yourself because the change in your routine so drastically is throwing your nervous system or your child's nervous system, if you're trying to do this with your child, into a deeper level of dysregulation.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Change is hard, right? Amen. So when you change too much at once, your body rejects it. Like, nope, it's not going to happen. It's not going to become habitual and it's not going to be supportive.
So keep it really simple. Start with the basic needs like we talked about in the last episode. And then when you're wanting to add skills for in the moment I think it's important to practice those skills like patterned breathing, like having sensory cocoons. What are some other skills that are like really?
Yeah, I'm going to throw a bunch of names at you guys because we don't have the capacity to teach you all of these skills in this podcast sprint. I do know that we have them in our Happy Mom, Calm Kids.
Calm Mom, Happy Kids.
Calm Mom, Happy Kids course. Sorry, guys. We have them in our Calm Mom, Happy Kids course where we walk you through a bunch of the skills and teach you why they work and how they work.
Yeah.
So if you're in this stage. And you can find that at our stand store. But one of them, you can Google diaphragmatic breathing. Okay, that's when you breathe in and then you exhale longer than you inhale. Okay.
Yeah. And then patterned breathing, which is like breath work, pretty much. It's different patterns of breathing and different types of breathing. And you can look into that in the masterclass as well.
I love the take a pause, right? That's when we're counting to 10 before we're responding or reacting. We're giving ourselves a pause. I also really love, and you can look up this one, progressive muscle relaxation. It's a very important one to understand how your body's responding.
Mine is sensory cocooning. That's like a big one for me because overstimulation is a big thing.
Tell us what it is so we can implement it.
Oh, okay.
Just briefly.
So it is where you minimize overstimulation. So I get like a weighted blanket or a big fuzzy blanket, my big noise canceling headphones. I put binaural beats on. You can like Google how that helps, or like in our class we explain that. And take like 5 or 10 minutes and I just close my eyes with like no stimulation, because the stimulation of the day is too much. And I try and do this every afternoon, regardless of whether I'm going to nap or not. Sometimes I nap, sometimes I don't. But like just giving myself even like 20 minutes of that, I feel so much more regulated going into the evening and coming out of that.
Yeah, sometimes I just lay down and close my eyes with like nothing. Last night, Lindsay and I got here and both of our instinctual responses was to wrap ourselves in a fuzzy blanket that we brought.
We even took a picture of it and put it on Instagram, because it's like, because it's like these things that we naturally do to like, your body is going to seek safety and comfort and regulation. And so adding new things in can be more about tuning into what you're naturally drawn to.
Yes.
And then amplifying that. And the same thing for your kids. So that's why the Tantrum Tamer quiz that we have has done so well and is so important, is because it takes the way your child naturally responds to dysregulated states, and you want to amplify that. So if they run away from you and they don't want to be comforted, if they're a flight kid, that is where you want to create like a calm down space that has things that they enjoy and calm them. And for my specific kids, those things are very different from kid to kid. So I have one kid that will color to calm down. I have one that like wants to have quiet time and listen to music. And then I have one that like Sam wants to play with Legos or something like that, or play quietly with his toys in his room. And so creating the space and adding those things in is a way to add new skills in. The skills that you need to practice are more like the mindfulness ones, like the diaphragmatic breathing. My tips for doing that are to pick one type of breathing, or say you're doing cold exposure. Okay. So cold exposure is something.
Yeah, cold therapy is something I recommend and practice a lot too.
And so I've started going to like, we go to this place where you can do weekly ice baths. So that's like my big kind of like cold exposure. The other one is like, I'll do the cold shower at the end of the day. And so I just added that in for a little bit. And it's something that once my body got used to it, because it was just part of my daily routine, now it's something that if I'm completely dysregulated, I can get in the shower and turn it on cold, and my body relaxes so much more quickly than it would have. So when you're doing this with your kids or with yourself, you want to first practice the skills when you're regulated and set up a regular time to practice them. And then your body gets used to that feeling. And once your body knows what regulation feels like, then it's easier to use that skill in the moment and have it work. Because a lot of times people come to us and say, well, my skills aren't working. And it's like, that's because you're not practicing it when you're calm. Your brain doesn't know that this is the purpose of this skill.
If you work it works, baby. So let's review. So we're talking about habit stacking. So we've thrown progressive muscle relaxation, pattern breathing, cold exposure. So with me, I go to the gym 3 times a week. At the end of my workout, I intentionally stretch and I do patterned breathing. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be complicated. That is when I do patterned breathing. I stacked it on top of something I already regularly do, so that way it could become more supportive for me. And it's something like breathing helps me feel better. I take a lot of deep breaths. And then I take a shower every day that I shower. Not that I shower every day, but every day that I take a shower, I do the cold shot at the end. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be strenuous. It could be lukewarm-ish.
Just as cold as you can, like it's a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, just a slightly
because you want your vagus nerve to kick in.
Yes. And then as long as I could handle, which is different every day, and then I turn it off. But because it's stacked on top of something I already do and is in my routine, whenever it happens, because I just got a shower as a human, then it's easier to use as a supportive skill. And that's the same with your kids.
So let me tell you how I do this with my kids. So something we regularly do in the morning in my house, and we'll get into this more in our like next tomorrow. But is I do a lot of like yoga and Pilates in the morning. And so my kids have seen me do that. So they want to do it with me. So that's where they either do it with me or I use Cosmic Kids Yoga. So they practice that in the morning, or they have the breathing, and we'll be doing the meditating or the breathing together. And so it's something that's built into our routine. So when they're upset, I can say, let's try some of our breathing that we've been doing during the day. There's tons like of resources online for mindfulness cards for kids. I just put them in like an envelope, and you can pick one a day and just try that new one. Sometimes it's more helpful. Kids get bored really easily, so you might want to like rotate through a few, but you kind of want to practice the same one for a little bit, so your body can really get used to it. So what I've done is maybe pick, and we switch it up because we all have ADHD in our house, so we get bored real fast. So we're kind of always doing the things to build our regulation, but we're doing it differently. So like sometimes I'll do like, we're going to pick 3 skills this week, and we're going to switch it up and practice like a couple of them like intermittently or whatever. And then sometimes we're just like doing the yoga and breath work together. It's just, shifting it.
Yeah, it just depends on what works best, which is why mapping your nervous system and understanding basic needs becomes so important in the foundation. So this is it, guys. Day 3, attempting new skills. If you need more support with this, please reach out to us or check out our Calm Mom Happy Kids class that we have at our Stand store, and tune in tomorrow where we're going to talk about how to do this with your kids.
And why it's important to do it with your kids.
Thanks for coming to Mindful as a Mother podcast. If you'd like more of us and Mindful as a Mother, you can find Paige at Instagram at Parenting with Paige, and Lindsay at Linz_Adams LCSW. Find us on TikTok, Instagram, and in our Facebook group, Creating Community and Smashing Parental Stigma, Embracing Mindful Motherhood and Positive Parenting. Thanks so much, and see you next time.